Hey guys, welcome to the homework number 3 video. Um, Thank you for watching if you are watching. I'm going to get started. I'm going to try and solve them a bunch of different ways. I'm going to leave you guys the last one or two, but I want to make sure that we talk about how to use the calculator as well. Something I wanted to say before I get started, if you don't have a calculator at home, a really good online calculator you can use to graph as well, because I know you can use your phone for the easy addition stuff. If you want to graph, you can go to desmos.com/calculator, and they have a calculator you can type in and use. If you have any questions about that, let me know. But desmos.com/calculator is a really good graphing calculator resource for you to use. But without further ado, let's get started. So I have n plus 2 equals negative 14 minus n. The first thing I do when I see an equation, or an inequality for that matter, is draw a line straight down through the equal sign. So I'm going to think about my steps. Step 1, it says distribute if needed. So I look over here on my left side. I see I don't need to distribute at all. I look over here on my right side. I also don't need to distribute. So that step doesn't matter. Step 2 says simplify. Once again, I can't simplify if they're on different sides of the equal sign. So I check my left side. Those are not like terms, so I cannot simplify. I check this side. Those are not like terms. I can't simplify. I did this one as well. Step 3 is move all variables to same side. So I'm going to look and see if I can move all my variables to the same side. I'm going to move this one. I like to move my negative guys. It doesn't really matter. So just a reminder, if I have a minus or just an n, I know there's an invisible 1 behind that. I see I'm subtracting 1n, so I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to do a plus 1n on this side. And if I do a plus 1n on this side, I have to do a plus 1n on this side. And since it's like terms with my n, I'm going to write it right underneath that n. So I see another opportunity where I need to write my invisible 1. So I have 1n plus 1n. That gives me a 2n. I have not touched my plus 2 yet. So I'm going to say 2n plus 2 equals. I haven't touched my minus 14, so I'm just going to bring it down. And then I see a negative 1 plus 1. If I wanted to check that in my calculator, it would give me a 0. I know that I can just cross that out. So now I'm left with this nice, easy two-step equation. And since step 4 is solve, I'm going to do that as well. So I have 2n plus 2 equals negative 14. I know I need to get this n by itself. I'm going to start with this plus 2 over here because I always start with the part that's a little bit farther away from my variable. The other way to think about that is I always start with adding and subtracting before multiplying. So I'm going to get rid of this plus 2 by doing the opposite. What's the opposite of adding? Subtracting. So I'm going to do minus 2 on this side, minus 2 on this side. I have my 2n. I'm going to bring it down. I can cross those out because they canceled out. 2 minus 2 is 0. And I have a negative 14 minus 2. This is where a lot of us get tripped up. I want us to use our phone calculator. If you don't have a calculator, we're going to do negative 14 minus 2 because I don't want us to get problems wrong because we don't have a negative. So I have 14. I'm going to turn it negative using that, and then I'm going to say minus 2 equals, that gives me a negative 16. A negative 16, so 2n equals negative 16. When I have a 2n, I know that that really means 2 times n, and so I need to do the opposite of multiplying in order to get my answer. So the opposite of 2 times n is going to be dividing by 2, and if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. Those are going to cancel out, so I have n equals, what's negative 16 divided by 2? That gives me a negative 8. A negative 8. So if I wanted to check this answer, I know that my original problem was n plus 2 equals negative 14 minus n. I can plug in a negative 8 wherever I see an n. This is why using parentheses is really important. I'm going to give it a try right now. So hopefully you can see this. I'm going to mess with the brightness a little bit. Oops. That's not helpful. So I'm going to type it in exactly like I see it to see if I can get it to say true. So I'm going to do -8 plus 2. My equals button is right over here, equals -14 minus parentheses -8. It says true, so I know I did it right. Excellent. I'm going to try number 2. So I have -2 equals a negative and -8. So I know when I see a negative sign like that, I don't know why this keeps autofocusing. I'm so sorry. Okay. Whenever I see a negative sign, I know there's an invisible 1 right behind it. Whenever I see parentheses and a number in front like that, I know that means I'm multiplying. So I'm going to distribute my -1 to both sides. I haven't touched my -2, so I'm going to bring it down. Here I'm going to say -1 times n. That gives me a -1n. And then I have a -1 times a -8. If we're not sure, we can always use our calculator. So I have a 1, and turn it negative times 8, going to turn that -2. A negative times a negative is a positive. So my answer is -1n plus 8. I am multiplying this outside number by my first term and this outside number by my second term. Then I'm going to draw my line straight down. So I need to get this n by itself. I'm going to start with my +8 because it's a little bit farther away. I'm going to say -8 on this side and -8 on this side. A -2 minus 8 is going to give me a -10 equals, I'm going to bring down that -1n because I haven't touched it yet. I know I'm multiplying -1 times n, so the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I'm going to divide both sides by my -1. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. 10 divided by 10 divided by 1 is 10. I know those cancel, so my final answer is going to be 10. I'm going to practice checking my work one more time just to make sure. So wherever I see an n, I'm going to plug in a 10 in parentheses, and then I'm going to double check to make sure I did it right. So I have -2. Don't forget that equals a negative parentheses, a 10 in parentheses, and then -8. I also got a true right there. You can't see that. You see it right there. Got a true. That means I did it right. Okay, let's try one more. Actually, we're going to do this one and then number 4, and I'm going to leave these 2 for you guys to do them. You need to do these 2 to finish for credit. I'm going to work on the next 2. So I see a parentheses and a number outside. I know that means that I need to distribute. So for this one, I'm going to use my box because I'm going to get confused otherwise. So I have that number out front. It goes right here, a -6. On the top, I need a 1. And over the second part, I need a -5v. Reminder, this box is just a tool to help me distribute. So I have -6 times 1. That gives me a -6. And now I need to multiply for my second box. So I'm going to take this -6 times a -5v. -6 times -5 is 30. And then I'm going to write my v right next to it. So when I bring it down, I know I'm going to add them together. So I have -6 plus 30v. I can't combine those because they're not like terms. And I know it equals 54 because I haven't touched that side yet. I just simplified my left side, so I'm still following step 1 and 2, distribute and then simplify. I'm going to draw my line straight down. My 30 is closest to my v, so I got to get rid of this -6 first. What's the opposite of a -6? A +6. These cancel out. I have 30v left on this side. 54 plus 6 gives me 60. I know 30v, it really means 30 times v. So I'm going to do the opposite of multiplying, which is dividing. So I'm going to divide by 30 on both sides. I end up with v equals 2. And that is my final answer. Okay. This one over here is a little bit tricky. There's a bunch of ways you can do it. I think the easiest way is I'm just going to look at this left side and I'm going to see if I have any like terms. So I'm going to look at my left side, see if I have any like terms. I see a -14. 6b is not a like term. Is 7 a like term? Why, yes, it is. So these are like terms. I don't see any variables by those numbers. Now I'm going to look at this 6b. If I keep looking at just this left side, I see 6b. I also have a minus 2b. Those are like terms as well. So I'm going to combine them. Negative 14 plus 7 gives me a negative 7. And 6b minus 2b gives me a plus 4b. That equals my right side, which is 1 plus 5b. So here we are. I now need to get my variables all to the same side. So I'm going to get rid of this plus 4b by taking the opposite, which is a minus 4b over here, and I'm going to do a minus 4b on the other side, because whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I'm going to cross these out. I'm going to bring down my minus 7 because I haven't touched it yet, equals a 1. Haven't touched that yet either. 5 minus 4 gives me a plus 1b. I got to get the b by itself. I got to start by getting rid of this plus 1. So the opposite of a plus 1 is a minus 1. If I do it over here, I got to do it over here. So negative 7 minus 1 gives me a negative 8. And that's what my b equals, because 1 times b is the same thing as b. So I'm actually just going to leave you number 6. Let's talk about number 5 for a quick second. I know the first thing I'm going to have to do is get rid of this. So I'm going to do minus 2x on this side and minus 2x on this side. That gives me 5 plus 0x equals 6. That's kind of weird. What's 0 times anything? 0 times x is just 0. So this tells me that 5 plus 0 has to equal 6, and 5 equals 6. That makes no sense whatsoever, right? 5 does not equal 6. When you get something like this and you're really sure that you did it right and you're like, man, that really makes no sense, that's a no solution problem. There is no time when 5 plus 2 times x is going to equal 2 times x plus 6. So see how I already had that plus 5 and plus 6 over there? There's no solution. That is totally okay. I want you to try number 6 on your own. This question right here is going to be worth a little bit more because I'm not doing it for you, so I need you to do it for yourself. So when you come to show me your homework, if you don't have question 6 done, I'm going to be a little concerned. I know you can do it, though. I'm very, very confident in your abilities. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to me at my email, which I'll write right here, mkeyes@uplifteducation.org. Email me any questions. If you follow the Instagram, you can send them to me there. I think you can also reach out to me via Google Classroom. I will let you know. Otherwise, let me know before Wednesday for B days when this is due, or Thursday for A days. So I will talk to you guys soon, and good luck with the rest of your homework. This is just the front side video, so no worries if you can't see the back side yet.